Well, good morning. Welcome to Agape, the home of love. That's what agape means in Greek, unconditional love. Martin Luther King said the love of God operating through the human heart. Or me, Rev Lee Wolak, I define love as the awareness and acceptance of our wholeness. Or let me put it real simple. Love is the opposite of judgment. So if you're judging, you're not loving. If you're loving, you're not judging. Pretty simple when you break it down that way. We're a worldwide spiritual community. We've got people watching this all over the world. We have a podcast, we have a YouTube channel, we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. We're there for you. And so today, I've got a great message. But before we go into that, let's take a few moments and get ourselves centered. So I invite you to come into a comfortable seated upright position. Your back straight, hands gently resting on your lap, eyes closed. Gently bring your awareness to your breath, consciously breathing in and breathing out. Again, breathing in and breathing out. And one more time, breathing in and breathing out. Feel your body relax. Any thoughts, let them come and go. Don't hold on to them. Don't judge them. And realize that when you're focusing on the breath, you're on the rhythm of life. The breath comes in, the breath goes out. The wave comes in, the wave goes out. The experience comes in, the experience goes out. Life is always in rhythm. Sometimes we see the light, sometimes it's dark. The idea is, how do we see the light? Better yet, how do we become the light? How do we step outside the illusion that we live in a cage, that we live in a finite world, that we are powerless, that we are victims? So those are the questions we want to be open to. We want to be open to seeing life differently than what we currently believe, understanding that our beliefs create our perceptions create our experience. And so we open ourselves to new possibility, to new ideas, to new ways of seeing the world. And in doing that, we tap into our infinite nature, the divine presence. So we come back to this time, to this moment now. Move your fingers, your toes, maybe stretch from side to side. And now when you're ready, open your eyes. Put a smile on your face, ready for whatever's coming at you. So today, I called my talk, Stop Defending Your Cage. You see, most of us are not trapped by life. We're trapped by our defense of the cage we've built in our own mind. That's right. All the ideas we've had up until this point are limiting who we are, what we experience, and how we express ourselves. If you really break it down, think about this. Mom and dad put you in a cage. What was that cage? If you're a good boy, a good girl, mom and dad love you. If we love you, we're going to treat you better. You go to school, sit down in the chair for 6, 7, 8 hours, do as the teacher says. If you do that, you're a good boy, good girl. Everything is about getting you to behave in a specific manner. So the question we ask is, what invisible cages are you still defending today? Realize that anytime you're defending yourself, you're defending limitations. So we want to dig into this so that we can set ourselves free to have a more expansive life. So what is the nature of the cage? The cage is made up of beliefs, fears, habits, and stories. Almost all of them, none that we've consciously chosen. We've been domesticated. into believing certain things, behaving certain ways, our beliefs. I'm still getting over the beliefs I was given as a Catholic growing up, realizing now that they were all BS. This whole idea that you must sacrifice is nothing but utter nonsense. That was something created so that you could be controlled by religion. And then what did they do there? They gave you fear. You're going to go to hell. Then you had to do what? Build habits, go to confession, go to communion, go to church. And then he gave you stories to back all that up, and you bought into it. I've gotten wise. I questioned all of that, and I realized that the God that they were seeking is not the God that I believe in, because the God they were seeking is a God that judged. And what I understand is the type of God I would believe in is a non-judgmental God, an infinite God. I'm a part of that. You see, these beliefs, fears, habits, and stories, they're not external walls. They are internal agreements we made with ourselves, and almost all of them done unconsciously. Agreements like, I'm not smart enough, I'm too old, I don't deserve love, that's too hard. And each thought we think that's aligned with that becomes another bar in our cage. Fear, my friends, is the lock on the cage. We fear what happens outside the cage, so we cling to what's familiar. The greatest example I can give of this is I once had a gentleman in my life by the name of Jim, and he managed a battered women's shelter. And they would do the work with the women. They'd have left the man who beat them, physically beat them, emotionally destroyed them. And they would give them all the tools, train them, and in almost 90% of the cases, the individual would go back into the battered system because it was familiar. They couldn't deal with the fact that they could be treated differently, could be in the unknown and have a greater life. You see, the point is, life doesn't imprison us. Our unquestioned thoughts become our prison. So how do we defend this cage? Well, instead of escaping, we protect it. Why? Because we identify, our identity is comfortable. We want to feel comfortable, and yet we're meant to grow. Everything about us is about becoming more. We've got an inner DNA that wants to experience a greater life. Let's talk about examples of the defenses we put up. Here's a big one. We rationalize. This is how life is. It was like this for my dad, my grandfather, his father, therefore that. Oh, this is the religion I was born into, therefore my parents were born into it, their parents, I must be a part of that. We rationalize. Man, give that up. The second thing is, we blame others. It's my boss. It's my parents. My partner keeps me stuck. No, it's your choice to stay with your partner. It's your choice not to be authentic. It's your choice to have a boss like that. Or it's a choice to keep trying to please your parents when you weren't meant to be a people pleaser. If you're over 18, you're a grown adult. Your job is to figure out who you are and live from that place, not to be a people pleaser. How else do we use our defenses? Oh, busyness. If I keep running around, I won't notice I'm trapped. But yet you're in one of these wheels like a hamster, going around and around and around and getting nowhere. So many people are wrapped up in careers that take them nowhere. They're missing out on life. You see, the ego, your ego, my ego, loves the cage because inside of it, the ego knows who it is. Outside, it loses control, it dissolves, and the ego will do everything to protect itself. From a Zen perspective, the insight would be the bars you hold on to for safety are the very things that suffocate your soul. Your soul is infinite. Its purpose is to realize its infinite nature while having a body, a mind, and emotions. So when you're trying to defend yourself, you're creating a bigger cage, and your soul suffers from that. Now, how do you see the illusion? The moment of awakening is not about breaking the cage. It's about really seeing the cage was never real. That's right. They're just thoughts, habits, beliefs, limitations that you created. Realize that these are nothings but shadows on a wall. But far too often, we confuse the shadows for reality. We confuse that our preferences created what we're experiencing. All we have to do is change our preferences. You can prefer not to prefer, or enjoy what you prefer, but when it's not what you prefer, understand it's part of life and experience it. You see, what if the stories you've been repeating are not facts, but shadows you've mistaken for truth? One of the things you can do is you could study the Bible. I'm not a big Bible guy, but I've done a bit of study, and I realize what Jesus said is very different than what Paul wrote. Paul wrote completely different. Jesus never created a church. Jesus never would have created a hierarchy. Jesus never brought in heaven or hell. Jesus never came from fear. Paul created that. Jesus said, "It is done unto you as you believe. This I do, you can do and more. It is not I, but the Father. There are many mansions in my home." In other words, Jesus understood that his purpose was because I come here so that you can have life more abundantly. Jesus never created a religion. Jesus never had a church. Jesus spoke in the plains. He spoke in the mountains. He didn't have gold tabernacles, big artwork, big, huge buildings. That's Paul, not Jesus. We got away from the truth. Michael Singer, who I thoroughly enjoy, says, "You are not the one in the cage. You are the awareness watching the cage." Grasp that. You're not in the cage. You're the awareness watching you in the cage. Ernest Holmes, one of my favorite teachers of science of mind, said, "The prison door is unlocked and open. All you've got to do is walk out. Put aside the fear. Put aside the habit. Put aside the people-pleasing. Open the door. Walk out and start living." So how can you step into this freedom? Well, freedom doesn't come by fighting the cage. Fighting only reinforces it. Freedom comes from dropping defense and daring to walk through the open door. I am at a point in my life where I stop defending myself. I don't care what anyone says. I'll say what I say once. If they want to argue with me, that's their choice. But me, I'm not going to defend myself, because if I'm defending myself, guess what? I must feel the need to justify what I'm saying, because if I knew what I was saying, I would never defend. I'd say it once and I'd move on. Practical examples of how we stop defending the cage is simply catch the story. Notice when you say, "I can't because." Now you know you're in the story. Challenge the fear. Ask the question, what if it's not true? What if it's not true there's a heaven and a hell? Great question. Take one small action outside the pattern, even when it's uncomfortable. When you do that, you're going to start to step into your freedom. You're going to find that you are free and that you weren't in the prison. You didn't have to be fearful. You see, freedom isn't earned. It's claimed. The instant you stop arguing for your limitation. That's right. Are you arguing for your limitations? Because when you do, you've lost your freedom. So to live beyond the illusion, to live beyond the cage, life outside the cage feels unfamiliar. It feels open, spacious, and yes, uncertain. At first it'll be scary, but the fear fades, and aliveness, feeling alive, takes its place. I can remember going to Mount Kailash and hiking at 16,000 to 18,000 feet above sea level. I was scared, but as I walked, the fear disappeared, And man, I don't think I've ever felt so alive. You see, beyond the cage, that's where creativity, love, and spiritual power reside. Those are your natural states. Why would we choose not to be creative? Why would we choose not to be loving? Why would we choose not to use that power that is our natural birthright? I want to ask you this. What would your life look like if you stopped defending, stopped settling, and simply walked into freedom? That's a question to reflect on all week, all of your life. What would your life look like if you stopped defending, settling, and simply walked as a free person? See, bringing us back to center, the cage is an illusion made of belief spheres and stories. Pure and simple. We defend it because the ego clings to safety and identity. Awakening is seeing the illusion for what it is. And freedom comes the moment we stop defending and we step into the unknown. So here are some affirmations I think will help you implant new thoughts into your subconscious. The first one, I'm not the cage. I'm not the bars. I am the boundless presence now that the walls cannot contain. I am the boundless presence that the walls cannot contain. Today, I stop defending the cage and I step boldly into freedom. Today, I stop defending the cage and I step boldly into freedom. My friends, the door to the cage is open. The question is, will you walk out? All you have to do is push. It opens and you take a step. And by God, you're free. But it's your choice. I want to thank you for joining me today. If you found this message enticing, if you found this message, share it, for gosh sakes. And also, go to agapespiritualcenter.com, sign up for my daily thought and my weekly newsletter, tell you what's going on at Agape. Also, go to the calendar, see how you can plug in. While you're there, go to the giving tab, make a donation. Your gift allows us to bring this message to people all over the world. And you know, you'll start the law of giving and receiving. If you receive something, give back because you're priming the pump. With that, my friends, thank you for taking the time to spend with me on this journey of self-discovery, this journey of finding freedom. Until next week, it's your choice, but make it a good one.